Hello and welcome back. My name is Tolly Bryn. This is The Joy of Awareness, and today I wanted to show you some really nice stuff. Since I started to really take responsibility for my own health, after I started fasting a lot and eating really clean and really good and simple food, I started to realize at some point that food had been made to seem too simple somehow. Or maybe that's not the right way to word it, but it's something like that. And as I start to learn more about food, understand better how to, actually get the nutrients out of the foods that you want, that your body needs, as I become more knowledgeable about this, I start to realize that the food that we buy out in the store, all the ready-made stuff and the processed foods and the microwave meals and sandwiches and all this stuff, it just doesn't cut it. It's not real food in the strictest sense of the word. It's just not something that, like, if we define food as something that your body can digest, create muscle tissue and fats and neurons and nerves and all this stuff in an efficient way with, let's say, minimal entropy, minimal destruction of itself, then that's not real food. The stuff that you buy in the supermarket, the Coca-Cola and the sweets and the white bread and all this stuff, and even like stuff like when you buy sauerkraut out in the store, or pickled gherkins or stuff like that, it's not even real. Like, it's not even fermented like it's supposed to be, like it's traditionally done. They fool you by putting it into a mixture of water and vinegar, and then they add some sugar into it, and it gets this like tangy taste, which kind of gets close to the real sauerkraut taste. But it's nowhere near as digestible, and it doesn't have the good gut flora, or how should you say, like the probiotics that you really want from that. So after I started realizing this, that I started realizing that we're really living in a fake world when it comes to food, and obviously many other things as well, but especially when it comes to food. And I'm focusing on food here because it's such a crucial key element to living a healthy life. And with this video, I kind of wanted to encourage you to really dive into what it is that you're eating, why you're eating it, and what you can do to change your eating patterns so that you can become healthier, more prosperous, and just happier. Good food makes you happy. So let me go over a few things here. This is not an exhaustive list of the foods that I eat, but it is. These are some really important elements. So in the big jar here, which I need to close better, you can see that now. Let me just see. So in the big jar here, I've just finished preparing I think this is 2 liters, probably something like that, 2.5 maybe, I'm not sure, 2.5 liters of kvass, which is, I think it's originally Russian, although with many of these things, the ethnic origin of types of foods, it's kind of iffy to say it's from one place and not the other. It often seems to pop up in various places around the world, but it's very big in Russian culture, let's say that. And this is simply beetroot in a sort of brine or brackish water, which is just water with salt in it. I added a little bit of ginger in there as well, just these white little bits, and this is just a little cup, which is to keep all of the pieces down, keep them from floating up, because if they start floating up, then they'll start attracting mold, which is something that we don't want. This is a traditional fermented drink, and it is just absolutely amazing. And the thing with these fermented drinks, like they can be pretty salty and tangy at first, kind of sour, but it's as if as soon as your body starts to realize, like, wow, this is really, really giving me a lot of energy and a lot of nutrients, and it's just making me feel really good. This is the body thinking. Then it starts to crave this stuff. It really does. And the liquid now is, just about clear, but I usually ferment this for about 2 to 3 weeks. And at that point, it becomes more like red wine. It becomes like fully not transparent, but opaque. Opaque, yes. It becomes fully opaque, fully red, just beautiful red color, and really, really strong, like beetroot taste. And this is the first time that I'm trying it with ginger. Probably give it a little bit of a kick, which is something that I really enjoy. And I don't always have this in the fridge. I don't always like have it on the ready, because it takes a little while to prepare, and I usually just have 1 jar of this fermenting at a time. But I'm planning on getting 1 or 2 more jars of this, so that I can have like a rotation going, so that I always have some fresh kvass to grab from the fridge, because it's just really, really, it's just amazingly refreshing. I usually even just take like a very small cup. Sometimes I blend it with water, just to get like the sort of probiotic kick into my day. It's really good in the mornings. It works like coffee. Like seriously, you can drink a cup of this and you're just like woo, and it's amazing. So on to the next thing. By the way, this is just really, really simple stuff. So if you want to get started with fermenting, if you want to get started on something really easy to really, really help fix your gut biome, which is like, full disclosure, if you're dealing with any kind of autoimmune issues, then you should definitely start looking into your digestion first. That's just the first place to look. Is everything okay there? Probably not. You're probably not digesting everything very well. You're probably like dealing with all kinds of weird gastrointestinal issues, whether you realize it or not. And a good place to start would be to, 1, simplify your diet, 2, fast, or put fast number 1 and then simplify your diet number 2, and number 3, add probiotics. And this is the great way to start. So start with fast. You can find recipes online for this all over the place. It's just KVASS recipe. Second, I have here sauerkraut. This time I'm making sauerkraut with lemons and carrots, at least in the big jar here. This is just cabbage and carrots in these ones here. And sauerkraut, like kvass, is really simple to make. It's a little bit more of a process to actually prepare it. Like you need to cut it down, and then you need to put the salt on it, and you have to sort of knead the salt in until it becomes all sort of soft and mushy even. And then you stuff it into these jars and let that ferment for, like I usually ferment this for a similar while as the kvass, like 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. And you need to make sure that the salt levels are adequate, like not too much and not too little. Too little, it just won't ferment, and you'll just end up with like cabbage that seems like it's fresh but still tastes like it's old. It's just not good. And if it's too salty, it just becomes like really, really strong and really, just a really strong salty taste to it, and we don't want that. So we want something that's called brine. That's what this is literally, and there is a definition of that online. I can't remember what it was, but I think something like half a tablespoon to 2 cups, or maybe it was 1 tablespoon to 2 cups, something like that. Just look it up. I can't remember. Sorry, I should have checked it before I started the video, but it doesn't matter. You can find it online anyway. I absolutely love this. This is by far my favorite like accompaniment to any kind of food. You can eat it with anything, literally. And the thing with fermented foods like this is that it not only like has this sort of stacking effect, wherein if you eat a little bit of fermented foods, like real alive fermented foods every single day, you're building up your microbiome just by merit of doing that. So that's awesome in and of itself, but it has another property, which is that if you eat sauerkraut or drink kvass with whatever it is you're eating, you will digest that even better. So that is something also to keep in mind. There are also theories, in fact, unrelated to this actually, but there are theories that animal fats can really help digest especially vegetables and fruits, which is the reason why so many different cultures all around the world started to prepare vegetables with animal fats. For instance, we love blanched broccoli with some butter on it, or people like strawberries with cream, just two examples, and there are loads more examples of this kind of stuff. That's something to keep in mind also. And if you're interested in those ideas, you can check out Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon. That's where I picked that up, and then I later checked out Weston A. Price. He was a dentist, a doctor who traveled around the world and was doing all kinds of measurements and checking out the food or the dietary traditions of all kinds of sort of indigenous peoples all around the world, and found some pretty interesting stuff through that. This is from the 30s, I think. It's very old, but definitely check that out. His book, what's it called? Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, I think it's called. It's a slow read, and it's kind of dry sometimes, but once you get the big picture of what he's saying, it becomes so interesting that you can't put it down, or that was my experience at least. So check that out as well. Finally, what I have here is this is simply oats, rolled oats in salty water. This is more brackish than brine. There is a distinction, but the reason I'm showing you this is that grains are awesome food. They're really good food. There has been a really strong, how do you say, argument against grains in recent years, in the last 10 or 20 years. People saying they have gluten intolerance, which they may well have, celiac disease and stuff like that. People not actually digesting grains in a good way. But I believe that the reason for this is not that grains are poisonous, although they are. If they're badly prepared, they are poisonous to you. They are a slow poison. So I think that's exactly what happened with the Industrial Revolution, and especially in the last 50 or 60 years, we started becoming so accustomed to eating all kinds of convenience foods. We started using dried yeast instead of actually using sourdough. We started using instant oats and just cooking them for 3 minutes, from dry to cooked in 3 or 5 minutes. All of the granola bars and all this stuff, the popped corn biscuits, all of this stuff, it may taste good, but it's missing a key component to actually making them good and healthy foods, and that is that they miss the idea that grains need a certain amount of preparation. With oats, I leave it in salty water for at least a day, or at least a night, I should say, 12 hours at the minimum. Sometimes I may even put a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there as well, just a tiny bit, because the acid helps break down the anti-nutrients, the phytonutrients as they're called. And after it's been soaked, we're talking about oats now, after they've been soaked, you want to cook them for way longer than 5 minutes. You want to cook them for I cook them for 40 minutes. I make porridge for 40 minutes. And when you eat that porridge, it's so creamy, it's so good, and it digests like a dream you wouldn't believe. If you're used to instant oats and you're getting gas and feeling like you're not really getting that much energy from it, this is the solution. This is what's going on. You need to become conscious of these things, because this is really important stuff. This channel is all about finding health. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that, and you can check out my older videos on fasting and simple diet and the way I healed myself from chronic illness. And this was a huge part of that. I didn't realize it at first. I wasn't really as conscious of that when I was starting out as I am now. But every single day, every single week, I'm getting more and more conscious of the fact that so much of the food that people are eating is making them sick. Like, there's a lot of things in this society making us sick, but the food, I would say, is number one. There are other places to look as well, but let's start with the food. I think if people started eating more fermented foods, like true fermented foods, they would start soaking and preparing their grains properly. They would start fasting, and they would start eating whole foods instead of processed foods, and stop with the vegan stuff. Like, for God's sake, let's not go into that here, but it's not optimal. Let's just say that. I think if all those things were followed through with, we would have a society that would just be thriving. It would solve so many problems. Let me just show you one more thing here. Forgot to take it out earlier. This is yeah, let me just show you this actually. This is my sourdough starter. My sourdough starter that I made from scratch with whole wheat, and this is awesome. Like, you may be thinking, like, this is a lot of work, Tolly. Like, why would I want to why would I want to do this? And it's true. It is more work than buying a microwave wheat meal and eating it in front of the TV. It is more work than going out to the store and buying like white bread, like a square of white bread, and cutting that down and eating it with, you won't believe it's not butter or whatever it's called, or margarine and like vegan cheese. It is more work. I will admit that, but we need to realize that the value of food is not in its convenience, but in its nutritional value, in the way it makes us feel, in the way it helps us build our bodies up. Obviously, if you have a lot of money, you can get somebody to do all this for you, which is what I hope I will be able to do in a few years. But for now, I'm quite happy with focusing some of my energy on this groundwork. This is groundwork for making my body incredibly healthy. One final thing that I don't actually have at the ready now. I finished it because it's one of the tastiest things that you can get your hands on, and that is bone broth. So, along with all of these things, check out bone broth as well. Just if you cook some chicken, or you cook some lamb, I make a lot of lamb. Keep the bones, put them in the freezer, and when you've got like a bag full of bones, put it in a big pot, fill it with water, put a couple of spoons of apple cider vinegar in there, boil it up, and you have some of the most nutritious liquid that you can possibly get your hands on. And I kid you not, like, there's so many minerals and vitamins in there, and it helps with digesting, like I was talking about before, the traditions of cooking vegetables with animal fats. Bone broth is a prime example. The finest French kitchens always have a simmering pot of bone broth to use as a base for soups, for sauces, for all kinds of things. Vegetable soup with bone broth is just amazing. Like, if you like soup, you will love this soup. It takes a bit of practice to get, acquainted with actually how long to boil it for and how much apple cider vinegar. Like, I've messed up a few times. I've boiled it too long and it became like black and disgusting. I've put too much vinegar in it, so it became like really sour. It's just disgusting. But you know, the last 10 or 20 times I've made bone broth, it's just been really, really good. And you want to make it so that it's, when you cool it down, it's like blubber because of the gelatin. The gelatin in bone broth is one of the things that makes it so incredibly healthy. It really helps soothe the gut lining if you're dealing with inflammation. If the gut lining is in bad condition for whatever reason, for whatever reason, the usual reason, I guess, is prolonged intolerance, prolonged or continuous eating of stuff that can't be fully digested. That really messes up your digestive system, and gelatin from bone broth is just amazing for that. One caveat to that is that it is important to choose good bones for your bone broth. I've made exceptions for this. Like I don't I wouldn't say I'm rich. Like, I don't have a lot of money. I have enough, like, obviously, but I'm not well off enough to be able to buy organic chicken and organic beef or organic lamb for every meal. So I don't do that. And I use the bones of the other animals that I buy instead, and that's fine. Like, it's okay, but ideally you would want to be eating fully organic, fully wild raised. Well, no, I mean free range, I guess. All that good stuff. And yeah, that's about it with what I wanted to show you here. Like, I hope you enjoyed this presentation of mine. It's a lot to take in. Like, if you're not already doing this stuff, if you haven't got the cooking touch, if you don't like to cook, if you don't do it too much, this will take a while to sort of sink in. You need to take it one step at a time. But I'm afraid that there isn't really an alternative. Like, what I'm trying to say here is that you need to take responsibility for the food that you eat. The fact that the supermarkets aren't selling enough real food is no excuse. Like, you know now what you need to do. You know what's healthy, what's good, and you need to take the responsibility to actually make it a reality in your life. And believe me, you will never regret it. Like, taking that extra hour per week to, like, this took an hour or something. I made all of this right now, threw some oats into water, and the sourdough starter, it takes like a bit of attention, but it doesn't take a lot of time. Making bone broth is the same story. Like, it takes 4 or 5 hours to actually boil it. It takes no effort to just put it in a bag and put it in the freezer. All that's required here is that you decide to direct your attention to what it is that you're eating. That is like the core thing. Make the decision that you're going to know what it is that you're eating, that you're going to know that what you're eating is going to make you feel awesome. That's all I have to say about that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a pretty long one and kind of rambling, I guess, but I just really wanted to show you all this stuff. Like, I get so excited for this. But anyway, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, if you like my videos, please subscribe. Please like the video, share it with other people. Press the bell button as well on the subscription button if you want to be reminded of when I release new videos. Otherwise, you can check out my book. It goes into a lot of my sort of philosophy around food and around diet and nutrition, and it goes deep into my story of healing through fasting and a simple diet. It's called Health Simplified. It's on Amazon for like $5 or something. Check it out. It's short and concise and gets to the point, and it's an awesome book. Like, you'll really like it. So check it out. You can check out my website as well. That's joyofawareness.com. I've got a few articles on there that I'm really happy with, and I'm really trying my best to put out as much information out there, and just kind of trying to cut through the bullshit that's out there, like the health industry or the sickness industry, like the medical industrial complex, all this stuff, all the drugs, the psychiatrists and the doctors and all these people, they're trying to get your money. They're trying to, I wouldn't say they're trying to keep you sick, but they're for sure incentivized for you to be sick. Let's put it that way. The drug companies won't sell any drugs if you're not sick. So on my website, I go pretty deep into all those topics. Finally, I just hope to see you again. Like, I really enjoy making these videos. If you have any topic that you want me to talk about, if you have any questions for me personally, or about what I would recommend when it comes to food, when it comes to healing, let me know, like in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. I try to answer all the comments that I get. If you want to talk like one-on-one, we can do that also. Just to reiterate, like my main mission with all of this is to try to get you guys healthy. Like I have reached a pinnacle of health that I never imagined possible with my beginnings. Like I was so sick. I was dealing with so many autoimmune issues, just chronic eczema, like topical steroid withdrawal, like I was oozing all over. I was scratching all the time. I had to sweep up the dead skin off the floor every morning. It was gross. Like, and I was dealing with allergies and intolerances, and I couldn't digest anything. I couldn't sleep. I had so much anxiety and depression and all this stuff, like the brain fog and the blurry eyesight and like I started to get arthritis, and all this stuff was just snowballing. It was getting worse and worse and worse. And it wasn't until I started realizing these really simple principles for health that I started to heal. And it was just an explosion of healing for me. Like, it was in the course of a few months, I went from being suicidally depressed due to being so ill over to being like a thriving, healthy human being, like with energy to spare to do whatever I wanted. It's amazing, and it's nothing less than a miracle, and I want that for you as well. So if there's anything else I can do to help you with that, just please let me know. Anyway, like, subscribe, and see you next time. Peace.